all of this is just three brief principles that are, we have to establish from the beginning. Number one, science cannot disprove God. I don't care what anybody tells you. I don't care if they have a PhD. Science cannot disprove God. Why is that? Because scientific evidence must be based on observation. Measurements which are observable, data which is observable, comparative reflex and hypothetical deductive things which are essentially observable. Now here is the essential problem. God is outside the universe. All observational evidence is within the universe. You cannot use observational data from within the universe to disprove a God who is outside the universe, transcending the universe. It's absolutely impossible. You can't use data from within the cartoon to disprove the cartoonist. It's impossible. That's the first thing. Second thing, Stephen Hawking, during the debate, made that one contention. Well, we know today we now have string theory, or now what's called M theory, 11-dimensional configurations of strings. But the key thing is, as we now know, he said, that the universe does not need a creator. No, we don't. We don't know anything of the kind. Why is that? Because science is not only based on observational evidence, science is an inductive discipline. It moves from particular observational data, and then it tries to put all that data together in theories. And once it gets a theory, a comprehensive theory, that'll explain all the particular data, scientists say we're going to accept this as a rigorously verified theory until what? Something else comes along that could disprove it. Exactly. Science, by its very nature, because it's inductive, because it moves from particulars to universals, to particulars to generals, because of that, science must always be open to a new datum. A new datum which could literally lead to a scientific revolution. A lot of physicists thought that the Newtonian physical system was absolutely correct. Just like Stephen Hawking believes that string theory is, by the way, there's not a scintilla of evidence yet for string theory, and my friends who are stringers are really getting worried out there. But the point I'm trying to get to is, for all intents and purposes, we can't possibly say that a physical theory disproves a creation for certain, because we simply have to remain open to new data at all times. There can be no way we could say our theory is complete. Scientists don't know what they don't know until they discover it. That's the point of inductive disciplines. It must be respected. So you might think to yourself, well, Spitzer, if that's true, if science can't disprove God, and science can't even show that the universe does not need a creator, how can you get off saying that there's physical evidence that the universe does need a creator? How can you say that? From one very simple problem, and that is what's called a beginning of time. Not necessarily a beginning of time in this universe, though that could be the only universe there is. Our universe might be it. And by the way, we have no idea whether there's a multiverse. More on multiverses in a moment. We have no idea whether there could be a string universe in a higher dimensional space of string theory or M theory. We don't know whether that exists or not. It's an interesting possibility. We don't know whether the universe has been, expanding and contracting and expanding and contracting. But we do know one thing from physical evidence, that all three of those configurations need a beginning. Our universe needs a beginning. Multiverses need a beginning. More on that in a moment. Oscillating universes or bouncing universes need a beginning. More on that in a moment. Higher dimensional space string universes need a beginning. More on that in a moment. Every one of them needs a beginning. And that's why we're at a very interesting juncture. And we'll talk about the evidence for that beginning in just a minute. But we're at an interesting juncture right now, where we're getting to the point where all known configurations of matter, of physics, physical energy and space-time, seem to need a beginning. Now, what is the exact, why is that so important that physical reality may well have a beginning? Because if there really is a beginning to physical reality, the beginning of physical reality is also the beginning of space-time. It's the beginning of space and time. It's even could be the beginning of the time of a multiverse. And if we have a beginning of time, then prior to that beginning, the universe and even physical space and time itself was nothing. And if the universe was nothing, then the only thing it could do is nothing. Because the only thing nothing can do is nothing. That's the real meaning of nothing. Now, if physical reality prior to the beginning was nothing and could only do nothing, then something else had to move physical reality from nothing to something, because it could not have moved itself from nothing to something, because it was nothing and could only do nothing. This is the problem. You might be wondering, why did Stephen Hawking write at the end of his book, The Grand Design, that nothing was the equations of gravity? Because he desperately wants nothing not to be nothing. Because if nothing's really nothing, then if physical reality has a beginning prior to which physical reality was nothing, then physical reality is going to need a creator. A creation event outside of physical reality itself. That's the consequences. And by the way, Larry King actually got this. I mean, at one point I actually said during the debate, honestly, you can't claim that nothing is the equations of gravity. I mean, if you claim this, then you're going to say either that nothing is something, or you're going to say that the equations of gravity are nothing. Neither of those statements works. And if there was equations of gravity prior to the existence of physical reality, what would equations of gravity without a physical universe be? Well, they'd have to be some kind of mentative, some kind of intellective reality, which begs the question, in whose mind? A mind outside of physical reality sounds like God to me. Stephen, as I said, Larry King